Welcome back to Beauty Gains, episode 23. We are back at it again. Special guest, Erin Cold-Blooded Blanchfield is here today, everybody. Exciting. What's going on, Erin?
What's up?
Not
much. Yeah.
Not much, hanging out.
Yeah.
So today we are going to go into the life of Erin. Erin is newly finding her way finally into the UFC.
Yeah.
Erin is one of my teammates from Silver Fox, so that's why I'm very biased and very excited about Erin being here, and even more excited that she's starting to take these steps into the direction that from before you were even 18, we've been waiting for the day for you to be 18 and being able to get into MMA finally.
Yep.
And then how quickly you've grown from there, just from your work prior to it. So let's just get into what the hell even got you into MMA from a young age.
Yeah, so I first started training when I was 7. Like before that, I did like dance. Like my mom put me into that from when I was like 3 till I was 6. And I remember just kind of got bored of that, and I didn't know what else I wanted. I know I wanted to do a sport, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my brother Brendan was actually training already.
Okay.
So I went to watch him train, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to like try it out?" Like they gave me a little introductory class. And then my first class was actually like a no-gi jitsu class. And then after that, I just started like training like all the time. Like I slowly got like whatever, like 2 days a week and then 3 days. And then like I just kept growing from there.
So you started with jiu-jitsu first. What's funny about you saying that Brendan was starting first is it's almost like when you see you guys, it looks like big sister and little brother. And Brendan, I do not mean to put you down in any way, but it always seems like almost like you started first and paved the way for him. So it almost seems like he's, and I know you guys are training partners too. So you kind of have that dynamic. So it always seems like, oh, it's Erin and like Brendan is coming in and then he's training with you and helping you get ready. But you started after him.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too soon after him, like maybe like a month or two.
Yeah.
And I was a little older, so I started competing first because he was like only like 4. So there wasn't really any competitions that young. So I maybe started competing like, because I maybe was training for like 6 months before I started competing. And he was training probably till he was like, I think he didn't start competing until he was like 6 or so. So I kind of like always was kind of paving, I guess, the road for him in that way. Even though he is kind of like the one that got me into it, which is kind of a funny dynamic.
Yeah. I love that though, because
yeah,
they always come in and you always see them together, and you guys are so supportive of each other too. I always find that the older sister, younger brother dynamic in itself is really cool, because you always think about like the older brother and the younger sister and he's super protective, but like you're the older, like more mature sibling and he's kind of like falling in line with you, which I think, and I'm going to literally stroke your ego the entire podcast, because Erin to me is this, we'll get it out of the way now just so that you're like, okay, we're done complimenting, because she's so fucking humble and she just has this ability to stay calm all the time and just be so mature in her training, even when she's dealing with older people, younger people that are better than her, people that are underneath her. There's no, like, you never go into training with Erin being like, fuck, I'm gonna get hurt, or oh, I'm not gonna get a challenge. She has this balance of having the ability to absolutely end you, but at the same time being such a good training partner that you are still learning the whole time. You're not getting demolished the whole time. Anytime I walk in and I see Erin, I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna get such good training in today, because this is literally, I love training with Erin because again, it's not even to like kiss ass or whatever. It's just, any person that gets to train with her will tell you she has this just calm demeanor of control that she never seems like she doesn't know what's going on.
Which is good too, because I feel like in every field, if you have like a trainer that's just like all over the place, then you're going to feel all over the place and not feel like fully there. Even with my work, if I come into a client's house and I'm like all over the place and like scattered, they're going to be like, what am I going to get right now? You know? So I feel like it's good to have like a calming, like, no, you're going to do great. And
yeah, she just has the ability to give you a challenge without ever thinking she's going to hurt you, or without ever thinking that like you're the most terrible fucking person on the mat out there. It's just like a very great balance that you have. And from when you were young, it's been like that. And I feel like having that ability to control your emotions and to control your skill, not a lot of people can do. Mm-hmm. So I'm always in awe because I'm like, she could literally end me at any second, but we're still having such a great back and forth the whole time that I'm learning, and maybe I'm challenging you, maybe I'm not, but like she just has this ability to just make you feel like you're also getting better and being challenged at the same time. Mm-hmm. So now that I've spoken on and on and on about you, for you, I know that somebody wrote in, what is a good training partner for you? Is it somebody that like puts it on? Is it somebody that's challenging you, or is it somebody that you get to flow with that like makes it easier for you? What do you look for?
I guess with training partners, it's always finding someone that's like a good balance for you. Like obviously being like a female, it's always a little bit harder finding training partners. And I guess it's maybe why I kind of do have like demeanor, like that calm demeanor, because I know what it's like to get kind of like mauled by someone maybe bigger than you. Because I'm always like, I feel like I'm like a medium size, so there's always people smaller than me or people bigger than me. So I don't want to like trash people that are smaller. Like I'm not gonna get anything like out of that. You know what I mean? I kind of like I'll whatever, if I can catch submissions, like I'm not gonna let them like just beat me up. But there's kind of like a balance. Like maybe I'll let them get position and I'll work getting out of there. Or with like bigger people, we're trying to be more technical, like not use strength and stuff like that. But yeah, for my overall I try to find as many like high level like female fighters that I can like kind of get around, just so I can get like that realistic look. Like Caitlin Chikagan's actually been like a huge help recently. She trains up in Long Island. I'll go up there to like spar with her. Or just like in the gym, like Danielle Kelly at Silver Fox, who's a good role. And then like any smaller guys too are definitely like, and with guys you have to be careful if there's like guys that'll try to just like trash you, or guys that will like kind of like help you out. That's why my brother is like super beneficial, because he like he has a really good balance, I think, just from training with me like my whole life. And I feel like other girls always tell me that like he has a pretty good like
grasp on that. Like
he doesn't just like try to trash them or anything. But yeah, just trying to find like training partners that can push you to like to get you better, but not like hurt each other either. There's that middle ground. And like you were just talking about the guys, and I know you started laughing a little bit, but it is a massive problem, but you run into it all the time, where guys, whether they're higher level or lower level, I find it way more with lower level guys when they go with girls. It's and there's always that in between where you're trying to go against the guys, but then you can tell that there are some guys that just can't put their ego to the side, and they literally cannot let a girl, probably even a guy at that point, have the upper hand. So they get so like rigid and just use all of their strength. And you're like, dude, just chill out. Like, we're just trying to get through things. No, we're not getting paid for this. It's just training.
And they take it so offensively. And I find that's why so many women love like finding other females to roll with. Because at the end of the day, it's not like that we're malicious against each other or anything like that. But having the same kind of physique and having the same kind of size is nice. But you even find small guys that are just trying to like rip you apart. You're just like, dude, chill out. You have nothing to prove. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like you said, you fall into a position and like you work on getting out of it. I feel like guys don't accept that. They don't like being put into a position, and they just like freak out and try to muscle out of it rather than calmly thinking about it. And I find like a lot of the guys that we have at Silver Fox have found that kind of medium from having so many girls around. And I think that's another thing, is like you said with Brennan, from working with you for so long, he has that kind of happy medium because he's been around it since growing up.
Maybe a lot of guys, they didn't have any other girls in the gym. So by the time they do, like they're already like so used to going so hard every single round with all the other guys. So it's kind of hard for them to find that balance versus I guess if you start off having a lot of females around, you kind of like develop that.
What is like a typical training week for you, like in preparation for a fight?
So preparation for a fight, I train like 6 days a week, pretty much like twice a day usually.
Do you train something different every single day?
Well, I usually, so my main things that I train, I'll do like pad work with like my striking coach, like MMA sparring, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling, and those are kind of like my main things that I train. And then like just depending on which day, depends on what I'm training that day.
So bring us through kind of what a typical, give us like a hard day of training. From like wake up to bed, what does that kind of entail for you?
So I guess like my hardest, I try to keep like my hardest sessions, which I guess would be like my sparring, like my MMA sparring is definitely like my hardest sessions. So like Thursdays, like I'll wake up and I'll go to Long Island and I go and spar like 3 to 5 rounds depending on because I had like that Invicta title fight, so I was sparring 5-5s a lot. For that didn't happen, but honestly I got a lot better doing that anyway. So I'll do that, and then like when I get home I'll go to like jiu-jitsu practice or something, which is usually like an hour and a half or 2 hours. So I would say that's definitely like one of the harder days. I mean, I guess like also Mondays, like I'll do like hard pad work, and then I'll like work out because he has like a little gym at the Muay Thai place, and then I'll go to jiu-jitsu after that too. So like any days where I have like 2 to 3 like harder sessions are definitely like my hardest days.
Now, how do you deal with recovery? How do you deal with kind of keeping your body healthy, nutrition wise, sleep wise? Are you on a very
like how do you like mentally prepare yourself for like a fight?
I guess it's funny because people always ask me that. Like, I'm not sure how to answer because I feel like I've been like competing and stuff since I was so young. So it's kind of like something I've always done. I guess for me, what keeps me like, because like I like to be calm, especially like in my fights, is just like focusing on what I've been training for like that opponent, like just keeping the strategy in mind, like not really thinking about anything else. I feel like a lot of the people, they think about like, oh, the crowd and the people that are there watching.
You
like
just tune them all out.
I tune them all out. I don't like pay attention to that at all. I just kind of like think like, okay, like I want to do this and this, or like if that doesn't work, I'm going to do this and this, you know, you just kind of keep like that in mind, and that really keeps me focused, and I feel like I go into my fights a lot more concentrated like that way.
Because I find, especially with you were just talking about the crowd, the hype up, I feel like so many people try to get into, and I'm guilty of it too, when I used to compete when I was younger, and even now when I got back into it, you try to get yourself so hyped up because you think getting hyped up is going to give you some energy and power, and you're like getting into this like
adrenaline dump before.
I think if you serious,
I see it a lot because I see
feel
a
like
lot
it
of
would run you out faster. Like for cheering, like if I would go out and see like a whole crowd, I'm like, I'm not going off of the crowd. I'm going off of like, I want my best performance, you know?
And it's funny because I feel like a lot of people, I guess it's different for everyone, but a lot of people listen to music and stuff in the back where I don't like listening to anything. I kind of want to like feel my whole like area and like how it is. Like I want to hear the crowd so I don't like walk out and like then it's like all of a sudden I'm hearing everybody.
Just shocks you.
Like shocks you. Like I kind of want to get used to like my surroundings and everything.
Right. Or adapting to it before you go out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Definitely with the music thing, getting, like I was saying, getting so hyped up that you can't even think about what your game plan was because all you're thinking about is how hyped up you are. You're like, I'm going to do great right now because I have like all of the energy in the world to kill this human being. And then the first punch you throw, you're like, I'm exhausted because you like made your body so rigid and you made this big hype up that you're in there like about to go try to kill somebody. And you're just like, chill out. Like this is what you do all the time.
Everyone's so different. Like I usually like when I get to the venue, I'll just like stretch out, like make sure like everything's loose. I don't want to like crack my knee or something like in the first kick I throw. And then I'll hit pads a little bit, like try to hit like pretty much as like hard as I can just to like get out a little bit in the nerves. And then maybe like drill a few things with like Frank, like jiu-jitsu stuff. And then after that, I'm pretty much good. Like once I get a little bit of a sweat, I'm good. And I just like kind of like keep like hopping around or like shadow boxing a little bit to like get in there, but nothing like too much, just enough so you're warm, so you're not like, you don't get in there and you're like your shoulder pops or something because you're not warm. But yeah, that's pretty much just all I do. And
now when you have, besides like the actual training prep for it, do you have any rituals, or are you that kind of like superstitious person where you're like, I have to do this in the morning, I have to do this the night before, I have to like wrap the certain way? Do you have any of those little things that you got?
I try not to too much because it's funny. Someone else asked me this too, and I kind of gave them the same answer. Like I remember listening to like Conor McGregor talking about like rituals one time, and he's always like, "Oh, rituals are like a form of fear. Like if you feel like you have to do like all these certain things in order to win, like it's probably because you're not confident in what you can really do." So I try not, and every fight is so different, especially now with like COVID and everything. You never know like what circumstances you're going to be in. Like once you get to like a hotel or like what they're going to have there, what food there's going to be. Like I try to like stick to certain things, but I try not to be too focused on any certain like rituals. So I always just know like what I'm able to do is what's going to get me that win, like nothing else.
I feel like that would almost give you like a stress of like it has to be like this.
It does,
then you're stressing that over what the actual goal is.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're almost putting that over like if I need to have like this drink, it's like that doesn't matter.
Like at 8 o'clock in the morning, have to eat this, have to do this.
You turn into like that diva fighter. You're like, this is wrong. I needed 10 ice cubes and you only gave me 8. You're the reason why everything is fucked up. You're just going like all crazy and shit. And nuts. But going off of that too, having that build up and like what you're talking about, you don't know what's going to happen at the venue and COVID and everything. I know that you were supposed to have your debut already, and going there, I know that you had like a really good run in Invicta.
Yeah.
What was the transition for you, like going from Invicta? I know that the main goal has always been UFC, but going from, you were fighting in Invicta before COVID.
Yes.
Right? And during, or like right at the outskirts of it?
I had one fight like during COVID.
What was the difference in that? Because I always think about the fact that going from having that crowd around you and not having that crowd around you, and now going to kind of a bigger stage and having that, I know you're just talking about you kind of go into your own head. So I can imagine it, but you have to feel a type of way about it. So it's a difference between having that like external stimulant, like having the crowd and not, and then coming back to it again.
Yeah. Well, for my last fight with Invicta, it was definitely a lot different because they had to do it in like a different venue. Like they called it Fight Church. Like it was literally inside an old church that they turned into a boxing gym, which is pretty cool. But the only thing that wasn't cool about it, they had like no like locker room like downstairs because it used to be like a church.
Yeah.
So what we had to do, we were like at our hotel and we had to get our hands wrapped like at the hotel. And then from the hotel, we went to another hotel that was closer to the venue, and we had to warm up there. And then they transported us, like the fight before our fight was on, and we had to go to the actual venue. And the only like warm up area they had was like an office. Oh my God. And there was literally like a desk, so there was like nowhere to like move. I had to like shadow box like in a corner, like watching the fight before me go on.
Did that like throw you off at all? Or?
Definitely a little, because they didn't tell me that that's how it was gonna be. Like we didn't know like how the whole day was gonna work until the day of. They were like, "Oh, you're gonna go downstairs now and you're gonna get your hands wrapped." And I was like, "Okay." And then like, "We're gonna bring you to this other hotel and then bring you to the venue." And I was like, "That's kind of weird," because usually you go straight to the venue and you have like a locker room and you warm up. So that was definitely caught me a little off guard, because then you had to wait. Usually like I'll warm up and I'll try to like time my warm up to like right before I walk out. But since we had to like transport to the actual venue, it's like it was a little bit longer. So I kind of like warmed up a little bit like again once I was there, which was weird. And then like you can kind of like, since there was no crowd, you could clearly watch the fight ahead of you. Like, cause there was like a little door and I could literally see the cage, or usually I'm watching it like on a TV, like in the locker room.
Right.
So that was definitely different. But for me, I feel like the no crowd didn't bother me that much like before, because like I said, like I kind of like zoned it out anyway. So I kind of just like walked out to my music. Like there was no one cheering, but I feel like that's kind of how it feels for me every time. If that's like, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that didn't bother me. And then like the actual fight, I was able to hear like my coach and everything clear, and I was able to hear her coaches, which I don't usually hear their coaches as well, which was actually kind of nice because they didn't have any code. So like I heard everything they were actually saying. Yeah. So I was able to like defend everything.
So you have a coach like tell you like what to do pretty much?
Yeah, like, well, before fights we'll try to make like code for like certain combos and stuff like that we want to hit in that fight. And the code just helps. So like if I say like red, like I know what that means. So like they don't know what that means. So I can like, throw a certain thing. So you
have it in your head. Gotcha.
Yeah, where like her coach was like, "Oh, throw a jab." And it's like, okay, now I know what a jab is.
So now you're like, I know what she's about to throw at me. So obviously I know what I'm going to do. Okay.
Yeah, so for my last few fights, we've been trying to do code, and it helps a lot because like then I know and they don't really know what's happening. Yeah. Until I'm already like throwing it. But yeah, so that fight went great. And then like at the end when I won, the weird thing was like winning and getting your hand raised and then there's no cheers. That was really weird. Yeah, exactly. I think I looked around for a second and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that there's no one here. It's super weird. And then they just like, you get out of the cage, you go do your little like interview, and then they were just like, okay, you want to go back to the hotel? Like that was it. Like, there's no one there.
Okay. You're like, was this practice? What is this?
Yeah, it was really weird. So that was definitely the weirdest part about having no crowd.
Do you like to, after your fight is over, do you like to stay and watch the rest of the fights, or are you kind of like, all right, I'm done, like I'm out?
No, usually I do, because like usually like some of my family and stuff will come and they're huge like fight fans, and they kind of usually want to watch the rest of it. Be like, oh, I want to see these girls fight, and I'll like watch and sit there and watch the rest of the fights and stuff too. But that night there was only like one other, because I was the co-main, so there was only one other fight, and that fight ended pretty quick. So by the time I got out of the cage and got paid and everything, that fight was like over already.
Over with,
yeah.
So with all of your wins and things like that, what is the most rewarding one to you? Do you feel like it's when you get to, I know nobody really likes to get to a decision because you kind of want to finish it that way, but you finish majority of your fights, whether you have your knockouts or you have your submissions. What gets you more excited? I feel like submissions, knockouts.
I guess from memory, like the one that got me the most pumped after was definitely like my knockout win.
Is that when you spiked your mouth guard to the ground?
And I'm never that person.
No,
ever.
but that's what the funniest thing was about it. Sorry to cut you off, but okay. Erin, like I'm watching Erin's fight, and like we've been talking about, she's always like very cool and collected. It's almost just like so humble that she's like, yeah, I won. It's my job to win. Like, I don't need any more accolades than that. I'm not excited. She legit took her mouth guard out of her mouth, spiked it to the ground. But then you see Erin like quickly go and pick it back up because she was just like, you could tell that she was like, oh my God, what did I just do? I just spiked my mouth guard to the ground.
Where am I right now?
Literally, she was so excited that she spiked her mouth guard to the ground, but then quickly like went back and grabbed it back up again and was like, I didn't just do that.
It's so funny. I think I just had to like get out a little adrenaline because I remember like the second like I knocked her out and then I was like punching and then the ref like pulled me off, and I never had like a ref pull me off like that before, so I guess I was still
like, wait, this is done.
It's done. So I remember throwing it and then it just like covered my face and like walked, and then I was like, okay, I'm good. And then I went and picked it.
She literally picked up her mouth guard afterwards. It was just like, fuck yeah, should I just knocked her out? She's like, oh my God, my mouth guard, I'm so sorry.
Everyone who actually knows you is probably like that. Meanwhile, if I watched it, I would be like, oh, she's really excited. Like, you know, like
everybody that knows you was like, oh my God, Erin, I can't believe that was you.
Like, because again, she's so like collected. I remember when you had EBI, nothing like phases her in it. She's so honed in on like her fight, like she was saying. You got poked in the eye like, really hard at that one EBI to the point where like,
wait, what is it?
Oh, EBI. It's like Eddie Bravo Invitational. It was like it's like a high level jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah, so it's just so again, another thing that we get to watch her on. I always love when things get broadcast that we can watch.
Yeah.
So she this was that your final?
Yes, that was the final match, because I remember like before that, actually like my first, because there was 4 matches that night, and I remember the first match, I mean no one knew because you can't tell, but like I popped my knee like the first match. Ooh. Yeah, like I went like knee on belly, and like my knee that was like posted like popped like inwards. And I didn't even tell my corner because the weird thing was like when you went down to the locker room, everybody that you're going to be competing against was there.
Yeah, so I didn't want to say it.
Exactly. I didn't want to say anything because I knew that they were going to try to like knee bar that a leg or something. Right. So that I won that match in the overtime, and then the second match I won in regulation, so that was a little easier, less time. And then the third match, she was kind of just like trying to keep me away the whole time. And I remember like Eddie was reffing, and he was like yelling at us basically. He's like, action, like you need to do something. So I was like, okay, screw it, I'm gonna shoot like a single leg. And she went to like block it, but she like thumbed me right in the eye. And I remember seeing like 3 of her like when I got back up because it thumbed me so bad. Yeah. And I remember my eye, like, it didn't go black and blue right away because it takes long, but my eye started just like drooping. Closed, yeah, like it was drooping. I remember my mom was like, what happened?
So you literally fought with just one eye open.
Like, yeah, like it kind of went back, but I remember like my eye, it felt like heavy because it was like drooping already.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I just kept going because there's no like timeouts really. I mean, I guess I could have complained, but I don't think I would have got anything out of it.
But like in that situation, like, are you even like, oh my God, my eye, or you're just like, let me just go.
Yeah, no,
like,
I was just kind of like, okay, I remember just thinking like, I hope she doesn't attack because like I kind of wanted to be able to see, but she kind of was like backing off the whole time, so I was kind of like, okay, so I kind of just like let her like run around, to like regroup until like my vision kind of went straight again.
Wow.
I'm watching it. You don't even know. You don't even know what happens. You don't even know she got poked in the eye.
I'm like getting like hyped up. I'm like,
you see like all these male UFC fighters, they get poked in the eye from like a punch or something, and they're like, oh my God.
Well, I could never. Honestly, I have to say, I'm more entertained by the women MMA. Like me and my dad, like I grew up, like my dad would always watch it. I would sit with him, and I'm like, and my dad would look at me and be like, they're just badasses. And I feel like I was more entertained by the women than the men because I'm like you said, I'm like, I feel like, all right, like he's down now. Like, he's really down. But women, it's like, did you just keep going?
Yeah, I think like, I feel like they need more to prove because I guess they haven't been around as much. They kind of like go after it more. I think it's kind of what people notice when they watch like women that may fight, especially in the UFC and stuff like that.
Yeah. Everybody's just like fucking to the death. Like, I'm fucking going. I don't care. Yeah. Like you see like all the abnormalities like on your guys' faces afterwards, and you think about it. You're just like, they literally. You have to be able to take a beating to be able to like go.
You have to be able to like go in and be like, I might get punched in the nose. Like, I don't know.
I kind of go in and just accepting like whatever. Like I'm gonna go as hard as I can, and I don't care what happens to me. Yeah. I mean, like that's kind of like my mentality.
Wow,
it's so different from like sparring and stuff where you want to kind of like be careful, not hurt your partner, not hurt yourself. But like there, I'm just like, this is it. This is the only time it matters. So. Yeah.
So another question was, would you rather be kicked or punched in the face?
I'd rather be punched because kicks are a lot harder. Yeah.
All right. What else do we have in here? So we did this. All right. what about, we just talked about Invicta. What was it like being in a female, explain Invicta a little bit for people and then tell us the experience.
For people like me that have no idea.
Tell Courtney what we're about to talk about.
Here and tell me, 'cause I have no idea.
And then kind of just tell us your experience about just being around all of that female, like, femme fatale fucking energy all the time.
No, definitely, because I first went pro. I went pro with CFC, and then after that win, I signed with Invicta, and Invicta is like an all-female organization for MMA, like professional MMA. So I had like my first fight with them when I was 19. So I've been I think it would be like 3 years, like this July, since I was with Invicta. But yeah, it's so different. It's funny because I feel like once I went to the UFC, like I kind of forgot, like I was so used to only having women around all the time, which was actually kind of nice because like it's more like just comfortable and everything in the locker room. But that was super beneficial because Invicta, they've created like a lot of like UFC champs, like Rose Namajunas came through there, Amanda Nunes, or just a lot of UFC fighters in general, like Tisha Torres, Felice Herring, and stuff like that. So just having that, I feel like I got so much better like fighting there because I feel like it's kind of like unspoken, but I feel like a lot of like female MMA fighters, they try to like avoid Invicta because they know it's kind of like the harder competition. But I feel like going there got me so much better. Like the fights were harder and maybe I didn't have as many finishes as I could have. But I think I got so much better fighting there. Like my first fight there, the girl was like, I'm only 5'4", the girl was like 5'10", and she was like a boxer, so it was like literally the worst style matchup for me. So but I mean, I won the fight. I had to like fight more strategic and not just like run in there and do whatever like I wanted. Like I had to actually like be more professional. I feel like that's a big difference between like professional and amateurs. Like amateurs just kind of like go at it, where like pros, if everybody's good, so you need to be strategic, you need to be like smart, like try to fight smart. And yeah, like the one loss I had was through Invicta, but I feel like I got so much better. Like honestly, I'm so happy I lost that fight because I feel like after that fight, I got so much better and like how my mentality and everything changed for fighting, and just in general. And then I was just I really wanted to fight for that title because if I won that title, I was going to be the youngest Invicta champ, so it would have been a really nice like feather in my cap. But they were just going through some like changes and stuff with like who they're going to be broadcasted through, so that never really happened.
And then you got the UFC call.
Yeah, and then I got the call to the UFC.
So now I have to ask you this question because anytime I train with Erin, I always ask her, I'm like, are you getting ready for anything? Not that I could actually hurt Erin, but when people are getting ready for something, it's not that you have to find a middle ground of I want to push her because I want her to get ready. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not going to be really concentrating on my game so much as if I could hurt her. Because the last thing I need is for me to do something fucking stupid and Erin get hurt and then Erin can't fight and I will literally be fucking exiled from the thing. So I always ask her in the beginning, I'm always like, oh, are you getting ready for anything? She's like, oh, I might have something in the next couple months. I don't know. Like hopefully something gets thrown together. 3 days later, Erin announces she has her fucking UFC debut. I'm like,
I remember that. That was funny. It was like Monday, and then I remember like
Thursday. Or you did know, but you just like didn't want to jinx it.
No, she asked me Monday. Tuesday is when I got the call.
Wow.
So
I was like,
But I love when stuff like that happens because it's like, what? Like you just put that out there. Like here we are. Like it's great.
No, it worked out great.
So what was it like getting the call?
So I remember I was at training actually, and my manager, he just sent me like it's on Tapology, they have like profiles for all fighters, so he just sent me like this girl's profile, and I was like, I knew she was like in the UFC, so I was like, oh, okay, this is probably like a call for right now. And it was at 35, which is, I usually fight at 25, but since it was so short notice at 35, I was like, yeah, I'll do 35. So yeah, he just sent me her profile, and then he was calling me, and he's like, oh, they like Norma Dumont needs an opponent for next Saturday. Like, do you want to take it? Like, it'll whatever. Like, they might be able to give you a little bit more money for taking it short notice, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like,
you're like, get me in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't fight since like last July. And I want getting to the UFC. Like, and usually getting into the UFC is like short notice calls like that. Like, you very rarely are gonna get like an actual like notice fight on your first fight. So I figured that was best case scenario for me because like the weight cut wasn't gonna be a problem or anything. Like she was a little bigger because she's fought at 45 too, which was like the only thing that was like a little need to be like just fights. I had to fight more strategic because she was gonna be a little bit bigger than me. But honestly, I didn't care. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get this fight, and I got a 4-fight contract with that fight too. So I was like, even if I lose this one, I have 3 more fights to go back to my weight class and start winning fights there. So yeah, that was definitely a
you
huge
had
moment.
4 fights with them, like with UFC?
Not yet. I have a 4-fight contract with them.
Okay.
Because what then happened with her needing an opponent right away, and then what happened?
Okay, so I got that call and I took the fight and everything, and all the fight week and everything went great. It was in Vegas, so it wasn't too far. It was easy to get there. I made weight, but then she came in like 39 and a half, and we were fighting at 135, and you're allowed 1 pound, so you're allowed to 136, but so she missed weight by like 3.5 pounds. And the athletic commission didn't want to let our fight happen because they know I usually fight at 125 and she usually fights like 35 or 45. So they were worried that she was going to be like more than 10 pounds heavier than me the next day, because they weigh you. Like a lot of other organizations don't do that, but the UFC does. They weigh you like on fight day to see how much weight you put on after the fight, which is, I guess it's interesting. Like I guess it's for fighter safety, where a lot of other organizations, as long as you make weight, they don't care. You know what I mean? But the UFC tries to be more professional with that because they don't want people like getting hurt for no reason. So she came in heavy, and they basically just like called the fight off like pretty much immediately. Like I was still waiting in the back, like still waiting for because we weigh in and then we have face offs, so I was like waiting for the face offs, and they like maybe called me and told me that they canceled the fight. But you know, I mean, I still have a 4-fight contract with them, and I'm still only 22, so I have plenty of time to fight.
So young.
That's awesome though.
Yeah. So
someone was just asking me out there because we were talking about doing the podcast. And when people ask me if I'm ever going to do MMA, I'm like, no. I'm turning 31. I've never done MMA. Yeah. I'm too hurt now. And I feel like you're 22, you've been doing this since you were 7. Yeah. And I've been doing martial arts, but I've never done like a full combination of stand-up, groundwork, all of it together. This is not a thing that you kind of just
go.
Yeah. You just start.
It's to put your body through a lot with if you don't like feel... Like, I feel like if I didn't think I was going to like get into the UFC or be a UFC champion, like that's like my ultimate goal, I don't think I would do it because it's just so much to put your body through.
I think about it all the time. Anytime I watch you guys or I go and watch the guys fights, I see all the amateurs going, and you just see people who you know are just don't have it, are just never going to make it. But these people still just beat the fuck out of their body just to like do it. I don't know if they're like masochists, they just like the abuse. That's or they so think they're going like, somewhere.
I remember going when I went to Henzo's more like in the city. I remember like Thursdays we'd have like pro sparring, and sometimes like random guys, I mean, I guess they were good enough to spar with the pros, but they were like come like in their work clothes, spar with the pros, like go 5-5s like hard with these pros, and then just like go back to work. I'm like, what are you doing that for? Like, it's funny because everyone thinks fighters are crazy, but I think those are the real crazy people because they're
just
not
do it
actually
for fun.
Yeah, just do it for fun. At least like it's our job. You know what I mean? But yeah, I thought that was funny.
But that's what I always like think about is if you're not going to do it full time, you need to make this your full time job because you need the recovery, you need the space in your day where you can wake up and eat and train and kind of recover a bit, have your it's just so much physical. So I think I started asking you earlier about it. How do you like to recover? How do you like to stay in routine with your nutrition, your recovery? How do you kind of back away when you kind of feeling something ailing you?
So I feel like I just try to stretch a lot. I feel like that really helps just keep like everything like open, like my hips and stuff, because my hips kind of get tight because I throw so many kicks and stuff like that. So I really try to like stretch those out or like use the lacrosse ball to like kind of get out like any knots. I guess a lot of like I don't know. I have like one of those like massage guns kind of things. I use those all the time.
I need one of those.
Yeah.
Or just sit there all day.
Yeah. Or just like naps, honestly, between like training and stuff like that helps. Yeah, I mean, I guess mostly I feel like a lot of like, and warming up too helps a lot, like before a training session. I try to always get to training early to like warm up, and I feel like that helps me just like recover even after.
No, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Everybody always not avoids the warm up, but they don't take it as seriously because they're just like, oh, I'm good. Like, especially when you're younger, you're not like, I need to warm up to get off the ground now. Yeah. I just fucking body just feels like shit. Yeah. But I know that I've heard a bunch of times where if like your knee is bothering you or if your shoulder is bothering you, you have that mentality where you're just like, I'm taking like a few days off from certain things where I feel like so many fighters are like, oh, like I'm just going to deal with it and fight through it. And then they end up hurting themselves even more or needing to call a fight because they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's true. I definitely try to like balance that. Like if something's hurt, like maybe I'll try to work around it, do whatever I can that doesn't bother it, but I try not, like if I hurt my shoulder and I'm supposed to spar the next day, like I'm not gonna spar, you know what I mean? I'll just try to do something else, maybe just like cardio or something not to bother it. And I guess I have been training for so long. So like, I feel like I know, like, even if I had a fight coming up or something, I'd rather go into the fight feeling healthier than worry about like if I missed 2 or 3 sessions that I usually do. Like I think going in, like I've been training for so long, I know how to fight. You know what I mean? So as long as like my body's 100% going in there, I know like I can do what I need to do.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of gives me confidence. If I get hurt or something and I need to take a few days off, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. And I think that comes again from, I keep reiterating it, like your maturity and your mentality when your approach to your career is now, is a lot of people, even in our academy or people I know who do jujitsu, who might have like hurt their knee at training and then they're like freaking out that they have to take like 3 days off of training. 3 days off of training in the long scheme of things is like not worth it. I feel like a lot of people get anxiety, like I have to work out or I have to train or I have a competition coming up. But if you've been doing it for years and years at a time, 3 days off is nothing in comparison to, like you said, if you go in and your shoulder's bombed and you throw mitts in, now you have a busted shoulder because you didn't take the time to heal it.
Exactly. Like you can take 3 days off when it's first hurting a little bit, or if you can continue hurting it, then it's gonna be like 3 months off, you know, if you mess it up more. Yeah. So
to everybody listening, Erin is a professional fighter who says it's okay to take a day or 2 off if some shit gets messed up. So if you think that you're more qualified to talk about your little ailments and that you need to get onto the mat, Erin told you, take the fucking day off.
It's funny because I feel like I used to, like if I told people that, like, because I feel like I've always done that, even before I was like pro or anything. And I would feel a little bit like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, like other people don't, but I just kind of always did it because I was like, I feel better doing that. But now that I'm actually like professional, I'm a UFC fighter, I'm like, okay, I can tell you to do that.
It literally makes it
I
makes
love
sense.
how humble you are too about it. Like you would like honestly just sitting here having a conversation, I would never like, you're just like a badass, you know, like like I'm a professional, like, you know, like like you're like so humble about it.
She'll literally knock you the fuck out. And she's like feeling totally fine.
I'm gonna go call my friends and be like, I had a professional UFC fighter.
Oh my god.
No, I'm not kidding.
I'm like, Courtney, don't embarrass me.
Girl.
So with your nickname, who gave you your nickname and how did you get it?
Okay, so my dad made it up actually. Okay,
cool. Love it.
And I guess it has to go with like my whole demeanor and everything, you know. I started competing super young, but even then, like I wouldn't, if I lost or won, like I wouldn't freak out really. So I was always just kind of like same, like level-headed and calm. So my dad, I don't know, he just made it up. He's like, oh, it's like really cold-blooded. And he's like, oh, it goes really good with your last name. He's like, if you ever start fighting, you should use that, like Erin Cold-Blooded Blanchfield. And I remember my first AMI fight, they're like, oh, do you have a nickname? And I was like, okay, I'll just use Cold-Blooded. And I wrote it down, and it's stuck since. And I think it sounds pretty good. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
It gives you that, like, I'm a tough badass. And it makes you seem like this highly aggressive, like stone cold, like heartless person. And you're literally the nicest, sweetest, like well put together person, but at the same time it's just like there's no change in the face. There's no change in the face. Besides when you spike your mouth guard down to the ground and get super hyped up about things.
I need to see this video.
No, you do. I'll show you it afterwards.
It's
literally just like
I'm so excited.
I remember I showed that actually because I go to school. I'm still at like Montclair State, so I showed that because they all like it was a sports reporting class, and we all had to like talk about ourselves like icebreaker day or whatever. So I told everybody like what I do. And then I remember the teacher asked them to do like a little press conference on me, like so the kids can get used to like asking questions and stuff like that. And she was like, oh, can you like show us some of your fights? So I like searched that one up right away. And I was like, here's a good one.
Here's a good one.
Can we make a meme out of it? Can we make a meme out of it somehow?
Just spiking shit. It was amazing. I was like, yes, Erin, the energy, the excitement from you.
I just like picture this whole thing and then you like picking it up and being like, what happened?
Yeah. No, she literally just picks it back up and just walks away.
That's where like the cold-blooded comes in and then you're like, oh wait, no, I'm so sorry.
So how is it like being still in school? One, I guess balancing it, and two, I guess how do your friends and people around you kind of like take into it? Is it kind of just, have you seen a difference in how people have acted towards you, I guess?
I guess not initially, because like when they first meet me, like nobody knows.
Right.
Like when I tell them, I could see like they're like, it's funny because some people don't like make any expression. I think they're just kind of taken aback, and the other people, it's like super obvious. They're like, wait, what? Like they don't, and you can tell like they don't believe me. I remember like when I first went pro, I always feel weird about it. I feel like they're probably gonna like search me to make sure I'm not like just like a psychopath. Like telling them, oh yeah, I'm a professional fighter, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely different, I guess. Like, I mean, once you get to like know me more, then people are kind of used to it. I guess maybe like the initial, they're kind of like, wait, what? But like once I like tell them about it, and I guess like the way I am about it too, like I'm very like calm, and I just like explain it. Like it's just my job, really. You know what I mean? Like obviously it's different. A lot of people don't do it, but I guess I've been around so many people that do it. It feels so normal to me. So I guess when I'm explaining to people, it kind of helps them like kind of just like whatever, like they feel normal about it. And I mean, my few close friends that I've always had like growing up and everything, always treated me the same and everything through, because I've always done it. And it's just like they kind of see me progress through the years, and they kind of like, since knowing me, they kind of know how it works and like how like you get through the rankings and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of normal, I guess, for a lot of people that I'm really close with. It's just like,
because it's been your whole life. They've been around you doing it forever.
Yeah, like I've always known UFC fighters and stuff since I was a kid. So like getting into the UFC wasn't, I mean, obviously it's huge for me, but it was kind of like always like, I knew I was going to do it. You know what I mean? It wasn't something like, oh, like maybe like, oh, it's never going to happen. Like, no, I knew like as long as I do this, this, and this, and I keep winning fights, and I keep getting myself out there, like I'm going to get picked up. Like,
so you pretty much just had like, that's my end goal. Like, how do I get there?
Yeah, exactly. Like just like where am I going to fight to get there? But I know like I want to get there, and I know I have like the ability to do that.
Did you ever have anyone like in your life just kind of like say like, really, like that's a little unrealistic, like at all? Or
you know,
or everyone was pretty much like, you got it?
I think like the people in my immediate life, like my mom, my dad and stuff, especially like my dad, because he always like growing up, he always brought me to like training and stuff like that, and brought me to competitions. He always was just so like confident in my abilities, and I think like his confidence gave me confidence too. Because even like before like I got into the UFC, like you always doubt yourself a little bit. Like I remember like I didn't have a fight for a while, and then the Invicta fight fell out, like the title fight, which was going to be like, that was going to be a big fight for me. Like if I won that title, like I was definitely getting to the UFC after that. So then when that fell out, I was like kind of like depressed about it, because I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? Like what fight is going to get me in? And I always remember being worried, like, oh, like when am I going to get the call? And my dad's just like, Erin, he's like, they'd be like retarded not to like sign you. You know what I mean? He's like, just relax, like it'll have its time.
That's good that you have that.
Yeah, like I guess like he's helped me a lot. Like I guess I don't realize maybe other people don't have that growing up and stuff like that, but that always helped me a lot. I guess just like stay focused and know like that I can do it. Yeah.
You almost like talk yourself out of like, no, I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, exactly.
How has your mom been with it? Because I remember standing next to your mom at some of your jiu-jitsu tournaments. And just being like, having the mom, like anxiety meets excitement, where once you like get going, before you get going, she's kind of like, and then once you get going, she's like, fuck yeah, Erin.
It's funny. I feel like whenever I watch my fights, I can literally hear her like screaming. Like she has such a particular like pitch, and she's so loud. But actually, I mean, she loves it too. I mean, she's definitely takes it different than my dad, but she's super supportive. Like she always, like with my Invicta fights, because we usually had to go out there like a few days early, and my corners couldn't always come like that early because they have like the gyms and stuff like that. So she would always come out with me. She's helped me cut weight like multiple times, so she knows what that's like. She comes around fight week, she'll like follow me around, help me with like doing like the media stuff, like holding my stuff and stuff like that. Yeah, like she always was there. And she's super supportive of it. Yeah, she was. It's funny because like my dad was always more like in the training, but since like he's more busy with work, my mom could take more time off. So she always came to me with fight weeks. I feel like I always, whenever I think of fight weeks, like she was always there. And since she couldn't come to the last one though, because like the UFC, since especially with COVID, you can only have like your cornerman. So I had like Augie, Frank, and then my brother at least.
I feel like you had to have right in there. You see him like in all the stories and stuff, just like popping in with the UFC signs and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And it's super helpful too, because he's like a little smaller, so I can actually move around with him, because we had to go out there like a few days early, so I still need to kind of like train and stuff like that. So having him, like I feel like just my whole family dynamic really helped me get to like the level I'm at now, like at the age I am. Yeah,
that's awesome. Because I feel like some people could be in your life and like just even that little bit of negativity being like, really, like how are you going to get there kind of thing, it affects you. So the fact that you don't have that, and like you have those positive people, especially your family, that's the number one thing. Like there's so many things that I would do that my family would be like, really? And I'd be like, all right, do it.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah, I guess maybe like some of my extended family maybe weren't as thought like, oh, like what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? But I guess like I always knew like they don't really know what it's about.
But they also don't see you every single day.
Exactly. They don't see me every day.
all the stuff that you do.
Yeah, they don't see that I'm training every single day. They see me once for like a holiday. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know.
It's like catching up. Like, oh, yeah. How is it?
Oh,
Good?
are you still doing that fighting stuff? Like, yeah.
You're like, yeah, that fighting stuff.
Yeah. Well, now that I'm in the UFC, now they're like, oh shit, like that's like, they know it's like legit now. You know what I mean? But before that, like nobody knows because they don't know how it works really. But I guess just having like my core family, I didn't really care what anybody else thought because like I knew how it worked, and like the people I trained with also knew like how like good I was and stuff like that, and that I could get to that point. So just having those people and listening to them was, I think, like the most important.
When did you, because I know you just said before, you kind of always had it in your head that this is what your end goal, what you wanted to do. You started when you were so little. When do you feel the transition happened, when you went from, okay, this is fun, I like doing this is the kind of activity that I like, to this is going to be my career?
Yeah. So yeah, for the first few years, like when I was super young, obviously it was just for fun. But I remember when I was around like 12 or 13 or so, I remember that's kind of like around the time when Rousey was coming up. And I remember watching her and Miesha Tate fight on Strikeforce, like when she was fighting for the title the first time, and being like, yo, this is so cool. Like I could do this. Like I've been training this since I was 7. I was like, I know I could do this like pro. And then I'm watching that fight, and then seeing like the UFC open up females, and having her as a champ, and then opening up more weight classes. So around like 12, 13, I was like, I think I'm going to like do this. Like, this is what I want to do.
Right.
Like when I can, like when I'm 18, I'm going to start fighting MMA and see how far I can go.
So awesome.
I remember growing up, because when I was younger, I used to do jiu-jitsu when I was little. And I was little doing jiu-jitsu, I think, before you were born. That's like our age difference right now. Yeah. And back then it wasn't a thing. There were no real MMA women. There were no jiu-jitsu women to kind of look up to. So when I was younger, it was kind of like I was the one girl in the class, or I was going to competitions, and it was still co-ed at the time because there weren't enough girls to have different fight classes in. And now it's amazing to see that girls with potential like you see it as a career now. And it's awesome to see. And it's kind of like,
it's really empowerment.
Yeah, it was like not in my time.
Funny. I guess I came up like right at the right time. Like,
yeah,
right when
I was 100% did.
When you think of MMA, you're like, it's such a man's sport, but it's not.
No,
you know?
not
like,
anymore.
It's like, I just feel like it's badass, you know?
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, watching some of the female fights, there's so much more action in female fights. You guys are so much more at it than the guys. I hate when I wait for main events and it's like 1 a.m. and the main event is 2 dudes. Again, I've never been in a ring before. I can't say anything, but I can say that when you're waiting for a main event and it's 1 a.m,
I've been there,
and they're just bouncing around at each other. They're not hitting each other. You're like, holy fuck.
I feel like even when I'm out at a bar and I see like the women's like one, everyone's just like really hyped up, and men they're like the same thing. It's like, wait, that's it. I'm like, I want to go to bed. Like, are you kidding me?
I think the female fights are so different. They're like a little faster, maybe like more flexible. I think like the scrambles are like crazy sometimes, and like female MMA.
Yeah, the female classes are such lower weights too, so you get like the massive guys who can't really move that fast, and that's especially when the main events are like the heavier classes. You're just like, all right, guy.
Oh my gosh,
we've got to move a little faster. We've got to get a few hits in, maybe get on the ground a little bit.
I feel like they like dance around a lot, honestly.
And it's funny because I feel like the heavyweight fights, they always hype up like, oh, the baddest man on the planet, which I guess they're the biggest guy, but the fights are usually like,
they're
super like slow. Women. I'm like, whoa! I'm like in my chair. I'm like, oh my god!
They're like, did you just see how hard she hit her? Did you just see her come back up? She can't even see out of her one eye.
I feel like my eyes are like this all the time. I'm like, no, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you like ran into any sort of things like that? Like when you were little, growing up, like we said, you came in at the right time. When I was younger and I did it, it was a lot of like, if you were a girl and doing martial arts, or if you were a girl and doing jiu-jitsu, it was kind of like, you're a fucking loser. You do karate, you do martial arts, or like, you're probably going to be gay when you get older if you're doing all these male things. Like that's shit that I went through that I was younger. And I feel like, again, you came at such a good time to use your potential to get to where you are. But there's always going to be kind of that stigma,
like criticism and stuff
of
like
that.
Yeah.
Have you ran into any of that firsthand?
You know, I guess when I started, I feel like I guess in school and stuff, I always was like, yeah, like the karate kid or whatever. Yeah. But people never really, because I feel like it helped me so much, like build confidence, because I was so like, I'm still like, I'm like really calm, but like when I was a kid, I was so quiet, like such a like so to myself, that like I feel like martial arts helped me like build some confidence. And like I used to get bullied a little bit and stuff like that, but once I started training, I felt more confidence in myself. Like that all kind of stopped. Like I was able to kind of like stand up for myself.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of stopped like the criticism and stuff from other kids, like when I was that young, because I was just like more confident in my abilities. I knew I could defend myself if I needed to. And then like we were saying, like when I was around 12 or 13 is kind of when MMA was blowing up. So then it was kind of like cool that I did it. Exactly. Then I was like, cool. Like in high school, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they would look at my fights on YouTube and stuff like that. And I was
all
like,
the people that bullied you, they're probably like, oh my God, she could fuck me up.
Yeah, exactly. So like in high school, it was kind of like the cool thing to do. And then like once I went pro and everything, then everyone always thinks it's like cool when you're pro.
Of course. Once you've made it, everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, I went to high school.
Yeah, exactly. Where they didn't even talk to me. Like, you know what I mean?
Or they run into you like, how are you doing? You're like, you didn't care about how I was doing back in high school. I didn't care what I'm doing now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to your fitness and beauty tips, what is just general advice that you would give for women, but even guys, like who are looking at this as something that they want to do for their career? What's good advice that you could give to someone young or someone just getting into it to get them kind of motivated in the right journey?
Yeah. Well, I guess like if you're young, like I feel like always having fun. I mean, even when you're older, if you're not having fun, you're not gonna be the best you can be, I feel like. So always like staying focused on that and like competing a lot, especially when you're young, and not worrying about like winning or losing. I feel like I learned so much more from my losses, especially like the younger you are. If you're going to like kickboxing competitions or grappling things, just compete and see where you're at and like analyze it. Like don't like just lose and then like pout about it. Like no, analyze what you did wrong, get better. I feel like especially then like the higher level you get, like I video like all my sparring and I analyze it so I could see what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong to help myself get better. Yes, I feel like those are some tips. Yeah.
Have some fun. It's okay to lose. Fucking lose all the time
and just get better from it.
I love her like calm demeanor.
It's so literally
like
insane.
I'm like peaceful right now. I'm like, wow.
Courtney's like
I'm like, this girl could really kill me.
She's like, but she's so calming at the same time.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck is that Pokemon character? He like sings
Pikachu?
people.
Not Pikachu.
You just spat out the first Pokemon you could think of. Brandon, there's like.
Are there any Pokemon in here?
What's a Pokemon that like sings and it like calms you down? It's a fucking Jigglypuff. They're like a Jigglypuff, where you fucking sing them and then they're just like, and then you're like, finish them.
I just like Pikachu.
Yeah, you literally said the number one famous fucking Pokemon out there. I guess I'm just aging myself. But all right, so now let's move on to your fitness and your beauty tips.
Okay.
Whichever one you want to start with first.
Okay, so I guess I have a lot of hair, so I feel like I know like a lot of girls that do like combat sports in general, like where you're getting like your hair tugged and everything. I always try to keep my hair like in a braid, like I'll put it in a ponytail and then braid it. I feel like that's the best way to stop it from getting damaged too much. I feel like people just put it in buns, but then like you have to redo it and you're like tearing it and like the hair ties are getting pulled out.
Do you do like the French braids or you like literally put it back in a pony, like slip
I
back
think I'll do French
ponytail?
braids too. Like I don't know how to do that myself, so but I think that'd be good too. I usually just put in a ponytail and just braid the actual hair, and I feel like that keeps it from getting like teared and like doesn't get as knotted and stuff. Like because even when you put it in a bun, it gets like super knotted. So I feel like that just helps keep my hair like more together and not damaged as much.
So I feel like if you did French braids too, if you just have the ponytail on the bottom, it could easily come out, right? Or you have to like really secure it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just keep it like super tight. Hair. Yeah,
it's unbelievable, but it's not a weave.
I'm sorry, I had
to throw it in there.
That's all her hair.
It's all my hair. Yeah, I always had really long hair.
See, I pay for your hair.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when I even do like a braid or something, I feel like I always pin myself down more than even like it getting ripped out. I always feel like I get stuck on my own hair. But now that I cut it, it's fucking better. But I think that's
why I try to keep it higher so it doesn't get pinned underneath me. I mean, it can like people's knees and stuff might get
like
on
whatever
it.
like gets like in your armpit or something. Like
the
I don't know.
Craziest shit happens. There'll be times where I'm like underneath somebody and they're kneeling on my hair and they're like, "Are you gonna move? What are you doing?" I can't move. You have me pinned down, so you have to move. So I try not to like stop the. Why am I doing this? I just heard myself further from the microphone and I realized that I'm pretending to be pinned down for no fucking reason.
Giving us a visual.
I know, but not everybody that listens actually looks at the YouTube. They only hear the audio, so they're like, "Where did Jess go?" I'm not actually
walk away.
I'm not actually laying on the ground. I just tipped myself over. If you're just looking at
but I'm just sitting here just watching you getting like a visual of you getting pinned down or something like your hair.
Oh my fucking god.
So also too, like skincare, because you have really good skin. Like how? No problem. How do you like keep your skin so clear with like all the sweat and like being on the mat and just like all of that stuff?
I always bring like wipes or something. I try to like wipe my face off like right away, like after training, and then just like showering. And I don't use like anything that particular. I use like Clearasil like wipes or something, just to like try to get all that off like right away. Like even before I shower, if I can't like shower right away or something, just to get like all that like off my face,
the residue off.
Yeah.
I think I had that as my own like tip. We did like questions or whatever. I think a lot of people just think that they can leave and it's okay to just have it on there if they're gonna go and shower, but I feel like by the time people actually get to shower, it's already sunk into their pores.
Yeah,
definitely. So sometimes I'll just like like you said, wipe everything off, so at least the top of everybody else's sweat. I know before we even started recording, we were talking about how half the time when you are drenched in sweat, you smell, and it's that it's not your smell, and it's not your sweat. You just have slime all over you, and you're like, I can't even do this.
Toners would be really good too, because they would actually close your pores so nothing would get in. So.
Before or after, you're saying?
After.
So like wipe it off and then
then put toner.
We go.
I'll get you guys a good one.
Yeah.
All right, so give us a fitness tip, because I know you also do some strength and conditioning besides just your jiu-jitsu training and your stand-up training. So what else are you doing for fitness wise?
Well, I try to do like some like strength conditioning, like maybe like twice a week. Honestly, I feel like it just helps keep my body together more than anything. Like I try not to like lift. I don't lift like super heavy or anything, especially because like I'm already kind of built like short and stock. Like strength is actually kind of like one of my natural like attributes. So I try to like work more on my speed and stuff like that. So like sprints or like bike sprints and stuff like that. So that, I guess like you just kind of like have to see because I feel like everybody's different. Like if you're a taller, like lankier person, maybe you have to work more on your strength, or like if you're someone like me, you have to work more on your speed. So that's kind of what I've been trying to focus on in like my strength conditioning aspect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions, Bar? Do you have anything you want to talk about?
I mean, I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah. We did a lot. This was nice. This was fun.
Yeah. So cool. I can't wait to see this video.
As I'm like fucking projecting going away. Yeah. All right, guys. You heard it. Erin, cold-blooded, sweetest human being, best training partner there out there. Badass bitch.
Thank you.
Blanchfield. When is your actual UFC debut? You know what I mean. Debut now.
So my UFC debut is September 4th. UFC 266.
You all
Check
better watch
her
it. She's coming for you if you don't.
Thank you to our sponsors.
FT Performance Labs, Commando.
No windy sleeves.
Bye.
Check you later.
Bye.